They told you your whole life to be sweet, to smile even when you didn't want to never argue, never push back, never raise your voice. They told you that being the nice girl would keep you safe, make you loved, make you accepted. And you believed it. You thought that if you played small, if you always agreed, if you never caused waves, people would like you. Maybe they would even respect you. Maybe they would love you for your kindness, your patience, your ability to sacrifice everything for them. Being the nice girl is something that many women are taught from a very young age. It's the idea that if you're always agreeable, always polite, always putting others first, then you'll be seen as good, worthy, and lovable. But the reality is that this version of niceness isn't the same as true kindness. True kindness comes from a place of strength, authenticity, and self-respect, while the so-called nice girl act is built on fear. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of not being accepted. When someone is always trying to please others, what they are really doing is betraying themselves over and over again just to avoid discomfort. Instead of speaking up when something doesn't feel right, the nice girl swallows her truth. Instead of saying no when her boundaries are crossed, she forces a smile and says yes. Instead of showing her real emotions, she hides them because she's worried about what people will think. This isn't kindness. This is self-abandonment. Kindness doesn't mean silencing yourself so someone else can feel comfortable. Kindness doesn't mean putting everyone's needs above your own until you're completely drained. Kindness doesn't mean you let people walk over you because you don't want to upset them. That's not love, that's not strength, and that's not the life you're meant to live. The difference between being kind and being the nice girl is huge. Kindness respects both you and the other person, while niceness, without boundaries, only respects the other person at the cost of you. Every time you say yes when you don't want to, you're teaching yourself that your voice doesn't matter. Every time you smile through the pain, you're teaching yourself that your feelings are less important than other people's comfort. Every time you go along with what everyone else wants just to avoid conflict, you're erasing your own identity bit by bit. Being the nice girl might look harmless on the outside, but inside it's damaging because it creates a life built on suppression. It forces you into a role where your worth is measured by how much you can give away, and it never allows you to stand in your own truth. This is why being the nice girl is not true kindness. It's fear wearing a mask. And it's a cycle that leaves you empty, unfulfilled, and disconnected from who you really are deep inside. People don't respect or value the nice girl because she's not showing up as her authentic self. She's showing up as a version of herself that exists only to please. When someone is always agreeable, always available, and always saying yes, it doesn't make others admire her. It makes them assume she has no boundaries and can be taken for granted. Respect comes when people see strength, confidence, and the ability to stand firm in your values. Without that, what they see is someone who bends too easily, someone they can use to their advantage, someone who will tolerate things others would never accept. The nice girl often believes that by always being kind and compliant, she will eventually earn love and appreciation, but what actually happens is the opposite. Instead of gratitude, she gets expectations. Instead of respect, she gets dismissal. Instead of being valued, she becomes invisible. The problem is that people naturally test limits. When you don't enforce your boundaries, when you don't say no, when you let things slide over and over again, you teach others that it's okay to treat you that way. You think you're making them happy, but in reality, you're just lowering their opinion of you. Respect is not built on self-sacrifice. It's built on authenticity and courage. People respect those who know what they want, who stand by their decisions, and who are not afraid to disappoint others when necessary. They respect the person who has enough self-worth to walk away from situations that aren't healthy, not the one who clings to them in hopes of being liked. When the nice girl tries to gain approval by being endlessly accommodating, she unknowingly communicates that her feelings, needs, and opinions don't matter. And if she doesn't believe they matter, why would anyone else? That's why she ends up feeling unappreciated, unheard, and overlooked. The truth is, people are drawn to those who stand in their power, even when it makes others uncomfortable. The ones who inspire respect are those who set clear boundaries and don't apologize for them. The nice girl will always be surrounded by people who take because she has made herself easy to take from, but she won't be surrounded by people who genuinely respect her. And that's the real cost of living for approval instead of authenticity. True happiness doesn't come from the endless cycle of pleasing others. It comes from living authentically and honoring yourself. The nice girl believes that if she keeps everyone else happy, she will eventually feel happy too, but this never works because her joy is always tied to someone else's approval. When your sense of worth depends on whether other people are satisfied with you, you're trapped in a life where your emotions are controlled by forces outside of yourself. That's why the nice girl often feels drained, resentful, and unfulfilled, because she's constantly giving but rarely receiving, constantly bending but never standing tall. Happiness is not found in being agreeable at all costs. It's found in setting boundaries that protect your energy, in saying no when something doesn't align with you, and in giving yourself permission to live in alignment with your own truth. Living authentically means daring to express your real opinions even when they're not popular, choosing paths that reflect your desires instead of what others expect, and honoring your feelings instead of burying them under a fake smile. When you start living this way, you may upset people who are used to you being endlessly accommodating, but what you gain is far more valuable than their temporary approval. You gain self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation of genuine happiness. You cannot feel fulfilled when you're constantly betraying yourself to keep others comfortable. You cannot experience true joy when you're silently suffering so others don't have to. The only way to build a life that feels meaningful is to make choices that align with your own values and dreams. Boundaries play a huge role in this because they're not walls that shut people out, they're lines that keep your energy protected. Without boundaries, you give away too much of yourself, and with every piece you give away, you lose a little more of your identity. But when you set them firmly and consistently, you preserve the space you need to grow, to rest, and to pursue what makes you come alive. That's where happiness lives, in the freedom to be who you are without apology. Pleasing others might bring short bursts of external validation, but it will never bring the deep, lasting contentment that comes from living a life that belongs to you and not to everyone else's expectation. Kindness and niceness often get confused, but they are not the same. Kindness is rooted in strength, while niceness without boundaries is rooted in fear. When you are kind, you act from a place of authenticity. You give because you genuinely want to, not because you're scared of what will happen if you don't. You respect others, but you also respect yourself. When you're simply being nice, you often say yes out of guilt, fear of rejection, or the need to be liked. This isn't generosity, it's self-sacrifice. It's not an expression of love, it's an attempt to control how others perceive you. And while it might look good on the surface, over time it drains you because you're constantly giving away pieces of yourself to keep up the illusion. The danger of niceness without boundaries is that it teaches others that your needs don't matter. You may think that saying yes makes you a better person, but what it really does is strip you of your power. Every unnecessary yes chips away at your self-worth, and every forced smile sends the message that your feelings aren't important. This doesn't only affect how others treat you, it affects how you see yourself. You begin to believe the lie that you exist to serve, to please, to give endlessly without expecting anything in return, and that's how you end up burnt out, resentful, and invisible. True kindness doesn't demand that you lose yourself. It doesn't ask you to accept disrespect or to silence your truth. Kindness can be firm, direct, and unapologetic because it comes from a foundation of self-respect. A kind person can say no without guilt, can set boundaries without anger, and can express love without losing themselves in the process. That's the difference between being kind and being nice. One expands you, the other diminishes you. One builds real relationships, the other creates one-sided dynamics where you give and others take. Niceness without boundaries may win temporary approval, but it will never earn lasting respect. Only kindness rooted in strength and honesty can do that, and that's why it's essential to stop confusing self-sacrifice with goodness and start embracing a form of kindness that includes your own needs as much as anyone else's. Reclaiming your power starts with some of the simplest yet most difficult actions. Saying no, setting boundaries, and speaking your truth. These steps may seem small, but they are the building blocks of a life that feels authentic and self-directed. When you say no, you draw a line in the sand that protects your time, energy, and well-being. For the nice girl, this is one of the hardest things to do because she has been conditioned to believe that no makes her selfish or unkind. In reality, no is one of the most powerful words you can use. It tells the world that your life has value, that your priorities matter, and that you refuse to betray yourself just to please others. Every no you speak strengthens your voice and reminds you that you are allowed to choose yourself. Setting boundaries is the natural extension of this. Boundaries are not about shutting people out. They are about creating clarity and teaching others how to treat you. Without them, you become a sponge for other people's needs, emotions, and demands. You end up drained, resentful, and disconnected from what you actually want. But when you set boundaries, you create a framework where your relationships can thrive with mutual respect. You show others that you're not available to be used or manipulated. And in doing so, you attract people who appreciate your strength rather than exploit your silence. Boundaries don't make you cold or distant. They make you whole. Speaking your truth is the final and most transformative piece. For too long, the nice girl hides behind politeness, masking her real feelings with forced smiles and watered down words. But your truth is your power, and every time you speak it, you step into a more authentic version of yourself. Speaking your truth doesn't mean being harsh or aggressive. It means being honest, direct, and unapologetic about who you are and what you feel. It means allowing your voice to be heard even when it shakes. And the more you practice it, the stronger you become. Saying no, setting boundaries, and speaking your truth are not just acts of defiance. They are acts of self-love, and they create a life where you are no longer the background character, but the author of your own story. When you stop being the nice girl, one of the biggest fears is that people will leave. And the truth is, some will. The relationships built on your compliance, your silence, and your endless giving cannot survive once you start standing up for yourself. At first, this can feel devastating because losing people feels like proof that you're doing something wrong. But in reality, it's proof that you're finally doing something right. Those who fall away when you enforce boundaries were never truly for you in the first place. They were only there for what you could give them, not for who you really are. Their departure isn't a loss. It's a cleansing. It clears space in your life for connections that are rooted in mutual respect and authenticity rather than exploitation. The nice girl clings to people out of fear, thinking that any love, even conditional love, is better than being alone. But this mindset keeps her trapped in shallow, one-sided relationships where she is valued only as long as she's useful. When she finally finds the courage to change, those relationships collapse, and though it feels painful in the moment, it's actually freedom. Because once the wrong people leave, the right people finally have room to enter. The people who stay when you speak your truth, the ones who respect your no, the ones who admire your strength instead of being threatened by it, those are the people you want by your side. They don't need you to shrink so they can shine. They want you to shine with them. Losing people is part of growth, and it's not something to fear. It's a filter that separates the connections built on manipulation from the ones built on love. If someone only values you when you're endlessly accommodating, they don't value you. They value the role you play in their life. But when you stop performing that role, you attract people who love the real you, the one with opinions, with boundaries, with courage. And those relationships, though fewer, are richer, deeper, and far more fulfilling. Walking away from the nice girl persona will cause some exits, but every exit brings you closer to the life and relationships you truly deserve. Freedom and respect are not given to the person who constantly shrinks themselves to make others happy. They are earned by the person who dares to live boldly and authentically. When you stop playing the role of the nice girl, you stop living for approval and start living for truth. You stop filtering every word, every action, every dream through the lens of what others might think, and you begin to honor what you actually want. This shift is where freedom begins, because you are no longer trapped by the invisible chains of other people's expectations. Instead of asking, will they like me if I do this? You start asking, do I like me if I do this? That single change in perspective puts your power back in your own hands and frees you from the exhausting performance of niceness. Respect follows naturally once you choose authenticity. People admire strength even if they don't always agree with it. They respect someone who stands firm in their boundaries, who isn't afraid to say no, and who values their own time and energy. The nice girl often wonders why she gives so much but is valued so little, and the answer is simple. Respect doesn't come from self-erasure. It comes from visibility, from taking up space, from being clear about who you are and what you will and will not allow. The moment you stop hiding your true self behind a mask of endless politeness, people are forced to see you. And when they see you, they can no longer dismiss you so easily. Living boldly doesn't mean being reckless or aggressive. It means refusing to apologize for existing. It means daring to pursue your dreams even when they don't match the script others wrote for you. It means letting your voice be heard even when it shakes. It means setting boundaries and sticking to them even when people push back. This is where true respect comes from, not from perfection, not from compliance, but from courage. And the freedom that comes with this courage is life-changing. You are no longer bound by fear, no longer silenced by the need to be liked. Instead, you become fully alive, fully visible, and fully in control of your own story. And that is where both freedom and respect truly begin.